In a world where everyone has their own YouTube channel and podcast, this guy had a YouTube channel but no podcast. Now, here's the guy with zero original ideas.
He's a little girl in big boy pants.
It's Shawn Cash and the Shawn Cash Podcast.
I am racking my brain, but I can't even begin to imagine why he'd make something like this.
And I'm back. I have been absent from YouTube for a while. It's not for lack of wanting to do a project. And actually, I've been doing a lot of projects, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but I do have another PodCash for you today with some updates on what I've been doing and why I haven't been doing YouTube videos. If you follow me on Instagram, Try to Finish Something, you've seen I've been working on a lot of things. It's not for lack of projects, but I have some questions to get to, and I want to share some different things with you, and I want to do it all on today's PodCash. So, first question ties right into this. Hey man, I'm worried about you. I haven't seen anything from you in a while, and I just wanted to make sure that you weren't dead. I am not dead. I have been working on some projects. I've mentioned that I've been working on a feature film, and I'm not sure. I'll tell you the same rumors that I've heard, and I don't know what of them are true. The current project that I am working on was funded by a church, and it was funded by one of the executive producers from Spider-Man. I'm assuming maybe they're a member of the same church. I'm not sure. It is called Armageddon, and it is a movie about the different ways that the Bible predicted the end of the world. It is supposed to be released by the church itself, and rumor has it, possibly also the History Channel. So we'll see what happens with that, but it's been a blast. The problem-solving aspect of working on a set as the art director and prop maker is it's amazing. It's so much fun and such a challenge in a creative way that I haven't been challenged like that before, because you know me, the name of the channel is Try to Finish Something. And even though that's the name of the channel, I've got a bunch of unfinished projects. I've got I've got a bunch of things that I haven't finished. I'm not going to start listing them off because that's going to get really depressing really fast. But I am going to finish those. At least I'm going to try. But the difference is between my channel and this project is I don't have that kind of flexibility to not finish. If the director says I need something tomorrow, it's got to be done tomorrow, and it's got to be ready to film tomorrow. And I had that happen many, many times where I had very little timeline to get something done, and I was able to get it done. So I know I can finish things if I actually set my mind to it. The next question is, are we ever going to get to see the movie that you are working on? Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure, again, where it is going to be available, but it is going to be available, and when it's out, I will share that. Which brings me to something else. So, this isn't the first movie that I have worked on. The director referred to this movie as having a, not the one I'm currently working on, the other movie that I did. Yes, this is the second movie that I have worked on. The director referred to the first movie that I worked on as having not a small budget, but a micro budget. Sorry, I'm going to move this desk just a little bit because it keeps moving this camera. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Distracted. So the first movie that I worked on is actually available right now. It came out on the 14th of February on Valentine's Day. It is titled Amy's F-It List. If you want to check out Amy's F-It List, I believe it has a small theatrical release, but it's also available on streaming services like Amazon Prime, which is where I saw it. I was invited to the Los Angeles premiere of Amy's F-It List, but I was not able to attend because I was working on the current movie that just wrapped up this week. The director is Marcus Allen, and there was the first assistant director and location manager, Quinn Gardner. Quinn is somebody that I met on that first movie, Amy's F-It List, and he's the one who introduced me to the director of the current movie that I am working on. So, things that I did for Amy's F-It List, I was contacted by the director, and they have this over $100,000 pickup truck that they, and I've mentioned this before, that they wanted to be able to beat the truck with this bat. And so I was supposed to bring to set a real bat and a copy of that bat made in foam so that the actress, Amy, could beat the truck with this bat. And I finally got to see it. I watched it at home, so I didn't get to see it on the big screen, but I saw it on the small screen, and it was fun. It's neat to see your work out in the wild. I mean, it's kind of it's hard to describe, but it's a very cool experience, and it was amazing. And I'll show you. Here are the credits to Amy's F-It List, and you'll see right there. Look at that. Special effects, props, and makeup. That's me. I made the bat in that movie, and it was a blast. It is available now, and you can check out the movie. It's just a little over an hour in runtime. It is it was fun. All right, so I'm gonna be moving on here. The other movie that I'm currently working on, as I said, is called Armageddon, and I believe it's supposed to be out around Christmas, and I will, of course, let you know when that is out. All right. While I'm distracted on that, I'm going to show you some of the things. So, while I was working on this movie, Armageddon, I would get different things from the director, things that he wanted done. He had a dessert that he once ate at, I believe it was Disney World, and he wanted to see if it could be recreated. So at one point in the movie, there's this big feast table that's supposed to just run on for infinity, and it's supposed to be lined with all of these people at this big feast table that is in heaven. And it's supposed to just be filled with all of these foods and fruits and just amazing bounty of things that these people are eating. And he wanted it to feature this dessert that he once had at Disney World. Because when I think heaven, I think Disney. But he tried to get people to make this dessert, and no one could make it. Or they didn't want to. And he came to me and he said, I want you to recreate it. So I did. I remade the dessert, and I kept one of them. Here is the dessert. I'll give you this camera list here. It is this dessert. And what I did is I made it out of clay, and then I sprayed it with a clear lacquer. All of this is clay and assembled so that it looks like the dessert. And I'll show you the actual picture of the dessert that he sent me. And then here's my version of it. Not bad, it's pretty close. The whipped cream on the top is caulking, and the little sugar granules. I took clear acrylic sheets and I cut them with my miter saw, and I made little sawdust pieces of clear acrylic and sprinkled those on there. So that's just one of the things that I made for the Armageddon movie. Other things that I made large things. That table that's supposed to run on for infinity, they wanted it to be 4 feet wide and kind of have like an S curve to it. And they wanted it to be 24 feet long so they could line it with people. And then digitally, they would duplicate that so that it went off into infinity. And I had to make this table, which was a huge task and a lot of fun. I enlisted a friend of mine, Ben McGee, to help me build this. He's a contractor. So the two of us kind of did that. We had it painted. Anyway, it was supposed to be this silver table, and it was very cool. There were different things like they wanted a shot of a bridge that two kids were sitting on, that they could have it up high, have the kids sitting on, and be able to zoom the camera under the bridge. So they wanted this big bridge that had to be the blue color so that it could be chroma keyed out. Here's a picture of the kids sitting on that bridge. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun and a lot of just random things that I wound up having to do. I made this throne that Jesus is supposed to be sitting on. I made a staff. So here's a quick story about the staff. So Odin of Odin Makes was hired to make a staff, and it was supposed to be like a 7-foot staff, and he had all the notes as to what they wanted. And I was supposed to reach out to Odin as the art director, and I was supposed to ask him if the staff was done, and it wasn't. Because Odin wound up getting a new job, and he got sidetracked with a bunch of things, and he wasn't able to finish it. So that meant that I had to finish it. So I went and picked up, it's really long, I went and picked up the staff that Odin had started and finished it. And he had done some of this circular thing. He had made some parts, and he had made it using a PVC pipe. What I wasn't told is that this staff was going to have to be swung around and banged on the ground and stuff. And I didn't build it up to the specs that it was going to be able to withstand this kind of abuse. So you'll notice here it's kind of separating a little bit because it was just held together by glue. But this part here in the center that has this jewel. So this is an extra jewel. We had to make a crown for the Jesus character, and it had this resin jewel that was created by Terry Cotant. He's a designer out of Florida that helped with the armor, and I'll get to more of that in just a second. But he had sent me some of these spare jewels, and I wanted to include that jewel into this design that Odin had started. And when I got the notes from Odin about what they wanted, they had talked about some wing pattern sitting inside here. And like I said, this is foam. And I wanted this piece to fit inside the foam and to be able to have a jewel. So what I did is I contacted, it's pretty cool though, huh? I had contacted a friend of mine that all of you in the Star Wars nerd group know as Martine. And Martine of Dune Sea Outpost is great when it comes to designing things in Illustrator. And I'm about 2 years into Adobe Illustrator. And I said, hey, what I'm looking for is I need a couple layers. I need a center layer that is going to be press fit into the center of that foam. And then I need some layers that are wings that will go around a jewel, and it'll fit like this. And there'll be one for the back side, so you have a front and a back of that staff. So you'll notice this is tiny. It took a couple iterations till we kind of figured out exactly what would fit. And he gave me a basic design, this, and then I made some alterations to it so that I could make it bigger for the stone. I had to cut out notches because it wasn't a full circle. It actually fit into these little grooves. And then that was the first almost perfect take of it. And then I painted it gold, and I took one of the jewels and I put it inside, and it gave you that. As you saw the final version, there were a couple slight changes. This was a little loose, and I wanted it to be a little better fit. So that was just one of the things that I wound up having to do that I didn't realize that I was going to be working on because, again, there was somebody else hired for that task. Odin was hired to make that staff the same time that I was originally hired to make the throne, which was over the summer. So there was plenty of time to work on it. It just didn't get done because he had other commitments that he was working on. The other thing was armor. I've talked about this before, but originally the armor was done, and this is where Terry Coton comes into play, because he was originally given the design of the armor that was done by someone else. They 3D modeled this armor, and they modeled it flat. And so Terry just did as he was asked, and he made this out of rubber. And the armor just laid really weird because it laid like this sheet of paper. And when you put it on the head, the back of the armor just was floppy because it didn't have any form. And so when I talked to Terry, I said, hey, let's do this rigid and let's redo this. And the problem that we had is they had already shot a bunch of scenes with the armor. So we had to redesign the armor so that it looked like the original armor enough so that it would pass as the same armor. And we wanted it to be rigid. And we worked with Nico of Nico Industries, who's local to my area. And we remade armor. So the armor that we made is this. So this armor is our redesign of our angel armor. And the reason that we wanted to redesign it is because we had to get the angels to fly. We had these wire riggings, and we had a tuning fork that the angels would be strapped into so that they could fly. I've got a couple pictures. I'll show you what I'm talking about. These are the angels in the actual wire rig coming down, and these are the angels in the tuning fork. And everything is blue, including the tuning fork, so that they can be chroma keyed out. But the armor, I wanted it to be rigid so that it actually had some shoulder support so that it could sit on the actors and they could wear that and be able to fly in it. We had a couple problems. One, we had these resin printed out of China so that we didn't have to do all of the sanding on these fish scales. And Terry Coton did an amazing paint job on this. This was painted by Terry. He sent it to me and I applied jewels down it here so that it could look like the original armor that we had previously in the movie. The problem was we had sized it to kind of fit the average size of the actor. Well, when we scaled it down, it didn't fit over anyone's head. They weren't able to get the armor over their head. And I've got a giant head, and I definitely wasn't going to get it over mine. So what I had to do the night before filming is I brought it in here and I cut out a piece of the back. And I had to make it so that this could then be placed with Velcro on the inside, and it would sit right on the actor so that they would have a full piece of armor in case there was any shot from the back, so that they had that. And then when I cut it, I had to make, this is armor piece A and this is neck cutout A, because I just cut them all with the spinning wheel of death on my Dremel tool so that I could cut out those pieces and then have everything match back up together. And it was a lot of work late one night. There's a belt that goes with it, and it was a lot of fun. I would definitely be thrilled to work more on that project. But other things that I had to do that wound up being day of things, I I had to make these grave sites that were ripping open. Here's some footage of that, and then light coming through that. I did that. Day of, I went and bought some sod, and we had people pulling the sod apart, and we had light underneath it, and it was so much fun. And destroyed earth scenes. This was another one where they wanted a close-up of Jesus stepping out onto this destroyed earth, and then the ground would start growing with new growth, and so he wanted this desolate-looking earth panel that I did until 2 o'clock in the morning one night and painted it on set that day. The paint was almost still wet in this scene, but it was fun. It was a blast, and I couldn't have done the armor without Terry Cotent and Nico of Nico Industries' help, and it was a lot of fun. And it was such a cool collaboration of people working on this, and it was really a lot of fun. All right, so let's see. Another question here. With the Grammys... Oh, okay, this is completely changing subjects. With the Grammys having just passed and you working in radio, did you ever have a chance to go to the Grammys? And if you did, do you have any good Grammy stories? All right, so this is completely non-related to any of this. So, any good Grammy stories? I do. I do have a good Grammy story. All right. So in radio, they do these things called Grammy Row, and you broadcast. They used to do this all the time, where morning shows would go and broadcast from the Grammys the week before the Grammys, and they would bring in. It sounds cooler than it is. They would bring in a bunch of B-list celebrities. If they had like a TV show that they were trying to get publicity for on like the WB network or something, or if they had up-and-coming artists, they would bring these artists through Grammy Row. And again, this was the week before the Grammys, and all of the DJs would be lined up at all of these tables, and you would get a list. You had to bring your producer, and you would get a list of all the different people that you could interview that day, and you would check off, oh yeah, I'd like to talk to this person, I'd like to talk to this person. And obviously they encouraged you to interview as many of them as possible. And then they had handlers that would go around and they would bring these different celebrities or artists to your table, and you recorded interviews with them that you could then play, or you could do it live on the air. So while we were there, I started to get bored because I have a short attention span. So I noticed that where we were sitting, just to the left of us, was the table full of clipboards. And it was literally just a wooden clipboard with a sheet of paper that had a little couple sentences about who the celebrity was, where it was airing, and then it had all of the different people in the room's names and little check boxes, so you could check off whether you wanted to interview them. So, so I had the idea. I told our producer, Shawn Cash, I said, I need you to find a computer and I need you to print up one of those sheets that looks exactly like that, and I need you to find one of these wooden clipboards. Go out, find a Staples, find me a clipboard that looks just like those, find a computer, and I need you to print something for me. And I came up with an idea for a fictitious TV show called Duped. Duped was a television show that was on the UPN network about two guys. And remember, this was probably 12 years ago. About two guys that were forced to become roommates because they couldn't afford to live in LA, and they decided to become roommates, and the wackiness ensued. It was kind of a ripoff of a Friends idea, but it was just two guys. So what we did is, he was able to find a clipboard, he was able to print it, he was able to give me a couple lines about it, and then he pretended to be one of the handlers, and he went around to the different booths, and he had people sign up to interview the two stars of the Warner Brothers television network show Duped. And we got about, 15 people, 15 different morning shows to sign up for it. My morning show partner, Jeff, and myself then went around to the different tables pretending to be the stars of Duped. Our handler, our producer, would go and say, I have the stars from the Warner Brothers show Duped. Are you available? Are you ready to go live? And they would say, yes, of course. So we would sit down and we would answer questions that these morning shows were asking us about our television show that we were just making up on the fly. And at the same time that we were doing this, our morning show producer would record us being interviewed by all of these shows. So what I would then do is and each of these interviews was more outrageous than the one before. I mean, Jeff and I would just get cornier and cornier and just crazier about what the show is about. And no one had any idea. And the whole point was the show was duped. And that's what we were doing to all of these other morning shows. And then what we would do on our show, instead of interviewing all of these different people that they were bringing around, because frankly, I just I wasn't as entertained as I was supposed to be, we would just play back our interviews being interviewed by other morning shows during our morning show and us pulling the wool over all of these other national morning shows' eyes. That's how we spent our time at the Grammys, faking out other morning shows. So yes, that's my Grammys story for you. And it was fun. I mean, we got a chance to go to the Grammys. That particular year that we did Duped was the year that Elton John performed with Eminem on stage. So I was there for that. Beyonce, I believe, performed. No, it wasn't Beyonce. It was Destiny's Child reunion. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just, I tend to not take things very seriously, and to entertain myself, I do really stupid things. But that kind of creativity is the same kind of creativity I try and bring to the different projects that I am working on. And I do have a lot more things to get to. I have plans for my room builds. I have some light switches that I want to make, light switch covers. And I want to incorporate, I just knocked over a thing of pins. I have some of the rocker switches that David White of Whitey's Wicked Workshop created that I want to incorporate into those. I have the thing to put into my Wednesday Frankenstein-like jar. I have to put something in that. I have some armor that I have been working on for somebody who I was doing. It's this, the custom Mandalorian armor that's back there. I need to finish that. I've got some things here for that. Anyway, a lot of projects to get to. I am going to get to all of them, and I'm back in the saddle. I'm ready to get back into giving you some YouTube videos, and I just wanted to say thank you very much. I'm sorry for the huge delay, and I appreciate everybody who watches and subscribes. And if you want in-between updates on things that I am working on, you can always follow me on Instagram, try to finish something there. But thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you with some more actual builds and YouTube videos coming up. Thanks for watching, everybody.